Hello and welcome to the Creatively Challenged podcast, where we talk entertainment news and random topics we bring to this $34 card table. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Nolan, and I'm here with my friend Mike Stuglis. How you doing today, Mike?
It always kind of befuddles me how unprepared I am whenever you ask me how I'm doing, because I can.
Do you never know how you
No,
doing?
I can never come up with like something to say, because I'm not just gonna say like good. You know, that's kind of a stupid answer.
Yeah,
It is.
it's funny when you see someone you're acquainted with in passing, and then they give them the "How are you?" and you always have to say "good."
Yeah.
You know, we never actually say how we are.
Like,
At worst, you give them the "okay."
Like I'm not doing good.
Yeah, like I took a whole English lesson. I remember Coach Nuke, sophomore year of high school, took an entire lesson to teach us words that aren't good to say how after people ask how you are.
What do you say?
Yeah. What are some?
What's it? Give an example.
Great, stupendous, spectacular, awful, terrible.
I like stupendous. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's gonna throw someone off guard if you throw a stupendous at them.
Yeah, right.
Or how you
Be like
doing?
that.
Fuck you.
Like that's the thing. Like Coach Nuke stood outside of his classroom door and shook all of our hands as we walked in. And he already knew me, so like he was like, "Danny, how you doing?" I was like, "I'm great, Coach." And he's like, "That's great to hear," because I didn't say good. I couldn't imagine walking up to Coach Duke, "Danny, how you doing?" and "Fuck you." I couldn't. I love that man. He's like my all-time favorite teacher. So.
That's grounds for expulsion.
Oh well, yeah, that too. You just look at him, with hatred. You just fuck you.
And that's Danny Stewart over there saying "fuck you." How are you, Dan?
Well, Ryan, I am a kid who can stop a bus with his bare hands.
That's a quote from Spider-Man: Homecoming. We're gonna be reviewing that later. Out of context, that just sounds strange. It's better than stupendous.
I don't know. Stupendous.
I'm a little bit.
Kinda hung.
Yeah,
I'm a little
kinda
bit
hung.
worried this
Stupendous.
week, guys.
What was that, Ray?
I'm on high alert right now.
Why is that?
Because I don't know, you guys. I'm sure you guys saw the news, but this is not the news section, but this is news. Is that Stan Lee's wife died?
Oh yeah, I saw
Joan
that.
Lee. And here's why I'm worried. We all know old people in our lives that lost their spouse, and like months later or even days later, sometimes they just pass because like sometimes I guess the body can't handle it, you know? And so I'm worried, and I think Stan Lee should be on death watch right now because that might be the case here. I don't know the science behind that. I don't know how
No,
that works.
I mean,
it might just be fake.
It happens a lot where people die of broken hearts because their spouse passes.
Yeah.
And it does actually happen a lot. So that's not necessarily a surprising thing. I mean, it just happened with Carrie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds. Debbie Reynolds passed like a day later due to a broken
Yeah.
heart. So like, it definitely happens.
Johnny Cash and his wife.
Yeah.
It was like a couple months
June,
apart, but
yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
But it's just it's a shame for Stan Lee. I mean, but they were both old. Stan Lee's old. He's what?
They both had great lives. You know, they're both in their mid 90s.
Yeah. And so
Um,
that's what a great life she had, and he's had a great life, and whenever he goes, I mean, people have been like not waiting, but people have been kind of keeping an eye on him for a little bit here. I mean, he's still going strong. I'd say his cameo in Spider-Man was kind of like
He needs to stop phoning it in.
yeah, like his cameo in Spider-Man was kind of like, I mean, like it was obviously one of the more obvious ones, I mean, it's always obvious, but like it was kind of like, okay, Stan, just pop your head out of the window and say this, and it's just like it definitely wasn't like cleverly placed like some of the other ones were. This one was just like,
He's a terrible actor.
Oh my God, Mike, can I ask you something though?
Go ahead.
You said he needs to stop phoning it in. I have heard that all my life, and I have no idea what that means. What does that
It
mean?
means quit half-assing it. And I'm just joking.
That's what
because-
that means?
Yeah, and I'm
Oh.
just joking when I say that.
his dad
because-
used to yell that at us as kids during football practice.
But what does phoning it in have to do with half-assing though?
Or quit grab ass, and that
yeah,
was his
that was
big
one
one
of
too.
them. Yeah. like phoning it in is like instead of going to work, you're like, oh, I can't go.
Oh,
Pretty
clever.
self-explanatory.
I can't. I'm 20 years old. I just learned this shit.
Hey, it's always time to learn something new.
Yeah, maybe I'm a little bit behind now there. You boys ready to take it in the news then?
Give me like 2 seconds. All right.
News, I hardly know her.
Doesn't make sense. I like where you were going with it, but that doesn't make sense there.
That was terrible.
All right. Who wants to take?
All right,
us
I got
into
the first.
news?
I got the
'Cause
first
two
one here.
terrible
I
jokes
labeled
right
them,
there.
sir. All right, Sony has already asked Edgar Wright to do a Baby Driver sequel, and apparently, reportedly, he's considering it. A Baby Driver sequel would be great to see. I like the little universe Edgar Wright built here with Baby. But I don't know that it's a story that I want to be told. I definitely would love to see like what happens next, but I just don't know what calls Baby into action. I mean, would you guys have any idea what like the story might be? Has he said anything of what he'd want to do?
Well, he said it would be a completely different story and it would further the character of Baby. What I would
Okay.
want to see, possibly, is because it is kind of like a fantasy, almost like a fantasy bank robber movie. There's something that feels not like, I guess, real in it. But I would like to see him maybe in the role of like an officer going after robbers or something like that. I could see them taking like a completely new direction because Edgar Wright said if he were to do it, it would be a completely different story. He also mentioned that Baby was kind of an apprentice in this movie, and maybe in the next one he's more of like a kingpin like Doc is or something like that, and that would be really interesting.
That's cool.
So yeah, I would be down to see it 100%. Like I said, like anything Edgar Wright gets to do by himself, completely fine with it.
I mean, like we said last week, I absolutely loved Baby Driver, and that's definitely the popular opinion right now. It's an incredible movie. But I feel like they were so ready for this movie to be good. Like, this isn't just brand new that they're talking about a sequel. I'm sure it was brought up when the original idea for the movie first came out. I think Edgar Wright's got this idea of this whole story behind this one character. I mean, Baby is a great character, and there's more to him. I mean, the movie did a good job of telling us like his story and showing a great story while he was, the driver for these bank heists, and now he's in love, and all these things happen towards the end of the movie where, there's more to do. So whatever direction they take, I mean, we'll see what happens, but seeing him as kind of like, whether he's working with the police or he goes back to, being a criminal or something like that, that'd be cool. But then also if they made a monstro mega movie universe where like Baby Driver and Speed Racer and Batman and Robin and Mario and Luigi, and they all just race each other, that'd be kind of cool too.
That sounds like a fun game.
Yeah.
Hey, Ryan, I did make Baby's car in GTA to get really off topic.
Oh, you
I
did?
did.
Is it fun to play
It's
as?
fast. I'll tell you that.
That's
But,
cool.
Yeah.
I hate how hard it is to turn in GTA when the cars are going too fast.
Yeah, even the drift's kind of bullshit on
Yeah,
it.
it's impossible to fucking do it. Like you can't keep your car pristine at all in GTA when you're making your way somewhere.
Well, kind of Baby drives like that. And, he's able to not get in collisions.
Yeah, but like he doesn't get into collisions. Like I
He's hung.
find myself fucking T-boning a lamppost from trying to make a turn too fast in GTA, but that's all right. I mean, I'm not Ansel Elgort. I'm not.
Fun piece of trivia I found out about Baby Driver is that like in all those chase scenes they actually did have Ansel Elgort in the car, and it was being driven remotely by a stuntman. And so like he was in there like fake driving the whole time. It's kind of neat.
He did some of the stunts himself too.
Really?
When they
I didn't know
allowed
that
him,
part.
when they were safe enough, they allowed him
Sure.
to do it, and apparently he was like really good at it too.
That's cool.
So yeah, that is cool. But yeah,
Speaking of stunts, this has nothing to do with our news or anything like that, but Jeremy Renner broke both of his arms doing a stunt for Infinity
Yeah.
War. So that's pretty cool.
kinda
And
nuts.
like in his interview for it, like he's just like, yeah, it's no big deal. I heal faster than normal people or something like that. Like he's like, I'm working to heal fast, but it's healing pretty fast. I'm just like, dude. He's like,
It'd be funny if they show him like casting arrows with like 2 casts on his arms.
they're just like, get Clint out of here. He's really not helping us.
All right.
right.
Anything else on the sequel to Baby Driver?
Nope.
All right. So, Game of Thrones starts in a week now. A week from tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very excited.
And there are already rumors for season 8, which will be next season, and that's also rumored to come out in 2019 now. But the reason is because it's speculated that it'll be 6 episodes, but people are thinking that those 6 episodes may all be feature-length, like films, almost, like an hour and a half or longer. And that's kind of why it
Oh
would
my
take
God.
so long, and that seems like it would be like a year show to shoot that, because that's like 6 movies.
Yeah.
And so that would make sense to why it's coming out in 2019. What do you guys think of this?
Well, I believe it. I mean, they've got like 7 episodes or 6 episodes to do what they normally do in 10. So, I mean, they've had time to shoot what they normally shoot in 10 or 11 episodes, and they're condensing it down. So they were kind of in shooting a little longer than they normally are, but I fully believe it. I mean, they're shooting now. I mean, all the characters are still kind of separated, and they all shoot in their own locations. I mean, the half of the cast doesn't know what the other half is doing most of the time. So they're still kind of in that mode where a lot of the characters aren't together yet. So this doesn't shock me. This is what I expected almost. This is since there are only 6-7 episodes, I want to be sitting down for an hour and a half on Sunday night to watch it, because there's that much story to tell. And I mean, it's gonna be bloody and war and winter and Jon Snow and nuts. So, it's gonna be great, and I can't wait.
Ryan?
Is season 8 the final season?
That is the
Yes.
final season.
Well, I mean, to just do what might be the equivalent of 6 movies sounds exhausting for everyone involved. I'm not, because like a lot of them say in interviews like how hard it is to film, right? Okay, I mean, that would be a lot to do, and I wonder if there would be pushback from like everyone that has to work on it, being like, hey, maybe not, because that would just be hard. But again, like we don't. Is this rumor or is this a story?
I think it's rumored.
Okay. I mean, sure, that'd be cool. I'd love to see if they had like maybe a special deal with any movie theater chains to screen all of them
that'd be
if
nice.
it were going
Yeah.
to be feature film. That'd be really cool. People would go to that. I'm sure they would make a lot of money, or at least maybe screen the last episode. People would go to that. Would you guys do that?
Yeah. Well, actually, no, I'd watch it from home, because I've done that with all of them, and it's free. I don't want to watch it with some fucking douchebag yelling, "Yeah, get him, John."
Yeah, and I'm
Fuck
sure.
you.
Yeah, and I'm sure people will go and do that if they do that.
Yeah.
I won't be one of those people. I will be at home.
That's a good point.
Yeah, in my boxers,
The
watching with snacks.
what I think this kind of relates back to is the whole time it seems like they've had this vision of start to finish.
Vision.
Yeah, Vision from Avengers.
Avengers.
Different, but
He got a little shout out
but-
in Spider-Man.
But yeah, he did. But I think this kind of goes back to they've had this vision the whole time, start to finish, and they haven't really gotten sidetracked with stories that don't matter. So I really feel like they were saying like while season 6 was on the air that the last 2 seasons would be like only a total of 13 episodes, 7 episodes, and then 6 episodes. And it seems like they're sticking to that. And if they say it's going to be this long, it's because they already know what they're doing. So I trust what they're doing 100%. This is one of the greatest shows of all time. And literally, I can never get mad at anything they put out because Weiss and Benioff, the creators, know what they're doing, and they have this entire time.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
I'm hungry.
You're hungry?
I'm very hungry.
Yeah,
I'm
I had
hungry for the next story.
I
Dan.
had
What is
my
it?
mom's chicken parm for lunch.
Ah,
It's delicious.
she was talking about that last night
Yeah.
when she came in.
It was good. But Ryan wants the next story,
Yeah,
so feed
I'm,
it to
I'm
him.
sure a lot of people want the next
Thank you.
story. Okay, so the next story is that Marvel Studios has plans to make 5 Spider-Man films already. Now, Spider-Man: Homecoming was awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Tom Holland's a great Spider-Man, and he's a kid, so they've got a lot of leeway to work with here to make more Spider-Man movies. But to plan for 5 is kind of a scary business. I mean, Spider-Man just got introduced in this huge Marvel Avengers universe that they introduced 10 years ago. And he's at the back end, and now he's kind of the plan to move forward.
Yeah,
like
he's launching the
phase
next-
4
yeah,
or
the
phase
next-
5
he-
or whatever
he-
the fuck phase they're on.
Yeah.
And so 5 movies, I'm sure it can be done. Marvel, Disney, they do very well. But the problem with the other Spider-Man films, Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans and Andrew Garfield Spider-Mans, is that they started to plan universe building, and then it never worked out. Sam Raimi wanted to do 2 more Spider-Mans after Spider-Man 3, and then they lost. They just lost the character, and whatever happened, and then they recast him, and they canceled Spider-Man 4. They were starting like pre-production on Spider-Man 4, and Tobey Maguire was doing interviews about Spider-Man 4, and they canceled it. And then Andrew Garfield, they were planning to do a Sinister Six storyline, and there was obviously a lot of pointing to that in Amazing Spider-Man 2. And then obviously they lost the rights to Spider-Man so that Disney could do them. So this is kind of scary. I mean, I believe in them because Marvel Disney finally has Spider-Man and they kind of don't fuck up anything. But, seeing that the other 2 cinematic Spider-Man have started to universe build, it's still kind of daunting to say, oh, we've got 5 movies ready,
These can't be anything more than blueprints, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
no.
Right?
yeah.
Right?
So
That's what I'm-
I mean, it's just plans. It's not official, but say you're working on like the 3rd movie, and there's gonna be 5. Like, I feel like not a lot of thought goes into movie number 3. Then you have Tom Holland walking down the street after getting the Venom symbiote in him, and he's snapping his fingers and pointing at girls. That's what happens to Spider-Man 3 when you're focused on Spider-Man 4. So I don't know.
The one thing this really has in its favor for them planning 5 movies is Tom Holland is young enough to where they can Tobey Maguire was like mid-30s. He's 40 now.
Yeah.
But he was
like late 20s when he started. And
Yeah.
and
Tom Holland's 21 now.
Yeah.
So he's got some time. That's what's on their side right now.
Definitely.
But it's
And
like you said, it's always scary to plan ahead.
And he's playing a 15-year-old Peter Parker in the movie, and it's thoroughly
No,
believable
he's-
that he's 15.
Oh yeah, he says I'm not 14.
Yeah,
right?
no,
Yeah.
Tony says he's 14, and he goes, I'm 15. So that's totally believable that he can play an age younger. With Andrew Garfield and Toby, you were just like, okay, these are grown men, these aren't kids.
Mhm.
So Ryan, what are your thoughts on this Spider-Verse?
Well, I don't think it should be cause for worry. If we take a look at Spider-Man 3, the Tobey Maguire one, I don't know why they canceled Spider-Man 4. It might have just been that 3 was unsuccessful. There might have been other reasons. I'm not aware of them. But Amazing Spider-Man 2 was so bad because they just in 3 and Spider-Man 2, they both were trying to it was all just laying down too much stuff so that they could have a longer universe. And Amazing Spider-Man 2 was absolutely terrible. It was all just set up for future films. But that's not what, and we'll get into it in our review, but that's not what Spider-Man Homecoming was. It took a refreshing step back, made it simple. It beckons for more, but it still keeps things kind of street level. And so to see like that movie, I don't worry that there's going to be 5 movies because they didn't spend all of that film setting up the 5 movies. They spent that first movie just now, setting up characters that we care about, fun moments, things to remember. And so I don't think this is cause for worry, but that's my 2 cents.
You know what Marvel does so well? Instead of planning ahead in movies like The Amazing Spider-Man 2 did and Spider-Man 3, they do it in post-credits, and that is so smart. It's just like, all right, this is the end of the movie. This is what's to come. I think that's so cool.
Well, and
that
Marvel's
they do that.
now brandished the post-credit scene.
Yeah.
I mean, Pirates of the Caribbean had a post-credit scene. Like they
Disney
wouldn't
too.
have- Yeah, and that's Disney. So they wouldn't have done that if Marvel didn't kind of start it. And I mean, we probably won't get into it because it is kind of a spoiler, and it is a funny, very funny thing to stay for at the end of the credits. But Spider-Man: Homecoming's end credit scene was so funny, and it was kind of mocking itself in a way. But Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy didn't have post-credit scenes, and the Amazing Spider-Man
I can't remember.
did, but it was still pointing more towards like we're gonna make more movies.
Right,
It's funny
right.
that they got canceled now because like they continued to universe build. But the thing is these post-credit scenes started with the Incredible Hulk in 2007. Like they always pointed towards more, and now like they're a certain thing. Like people know to stay. The movie theaters don't even turn off the lights now or turn on the lights until after the credits are completely over because the full movie includes the post-credit scenes. So like, Spider-Man: Homecoming was more of the same, and it's fun to know now that Spider-Man is with the Avengers. Like that's so cool because Amazing Spider-Man like wanting to be like alongside, like they wanted to universe build alongside the Avengers with their own version of Spider-Man. Like that would have never worked even if they didn't get canceled. So that movie had post-credit scenes and it shouldn't have. So this is very exciting for Spider-Man. With how good Spider-Man: Homecoming was, and the fact that they do have a lot of future plans for it is an exciting thing. We just all kind of hope that it doesn't turn into, some of the failures that the past Spider-Man films have done. I mean, and that's the damn shame thing is Sam Raimi did not finish strong with his trilogy, and and it's fun. It's funny because like looking back at it now, knowing that there was plans to be Spider-Man 4 and maybe 5, like it wasn't supposed to be the Sam Raimi trilogy. He wanted to do more. So,
Well, is that all we
we
have
should
on
stop
this?
talking about Spider-Man and just get into our review
Considering
of
our
Spider-Man.
whole episode is
so our
centered on
whole
Spider-Man.
episode is centered on Spider-Man. So
This is all Spider-Man.
yeah, so we should stop talking about Spider-Man and start talking about Spider-Man.
Absolutely. Because we saw a movie this week. We saw Spider-Man: Homecoming. It's directed by John Watts. And several months after the events of Captain America: Civil War, Peter Parker, with the help of his mentor Tony Stark, tries to balance his life as an ordinary high school student in Queens. While fighting crime as his superhero alter ego Spider-Man, as a new threat, the Vulture, emerges. It stars Tom Holland, Robert Downey Jr., Michael Keaton, Marissa Tomei, and Jon Favreau. This was a sweet movie. What do you guys got on your positives here?
Marissa Tomei is thick with 2 C's. I read a review for Spider-Man: Homecoming on IMDb, and somebody centered their entire review on Marissa Tomei being thick with 2 C's.
Oh my god.
And they said it was a good movie because Marissa Tomei is banging and still has
my
it. And that's
God.
definitely one of the positives of the film.
I guess.
No, but that's not the reason why Spider-Man: Homecoming is a great movie. I mean, just the idea of it, the whole, they went back to what Spider-Man's supposed to be. Spider-Man's a kid. And I think part of the reason why a lot of people love Spider-Man, including myself, is that he's one of the only superheroes. I mean, every superhero balances their life between them and their alter ego and their super life. But Peter Parker balances high school and girl problems and being underneath a parent's house like Aunt May. You know, I feel like it's so much harder for him to balance his life than any other superhero, and we're finally getting a young Spider-Man in the beginning slash middle of his high school days.
It properly shows him
And
in
it
high
properly
school, yeah.
shows, like, people were comparing it to, it was like a John Hughes movie if John Hughes directed a superhero movie. Now there's a lot of things that makes it not a John Hughes movie. You know, I mean, but I think it really did capture high school problems, and it really did a good job of showing Peter balance his high school issues and being a superhero, and then also having, you know, having a world of worries, but then still being focused on his goal. Yet Tony Stark acting like a father figure for him and grounding him, basically. Like, you know, it's really well done in the fact that showing Peter's age, and this is like a Spider-Man that kind of everybody's always wanted, is the young Spider-Man balancing this. So that it was awesome in that aspect. You know, Tom Holland is awesome. I absolutely love him. He's a great Spider-Man. Really pulls off the Peter Parker role well and did well. So I'm very excited for him moving forward. But I mean, after Civil War, I mean, his like 15 minutes or 20 minutes in
Whatever
Civil
you want to
War,
call it, yeah.
I knew that he you know, he had the opportunity to be the best Spider-Man. And our discussion topic is about this later, so I'll kind of get into my argument for that later. But Tom Holland, like, is like in my opinion, the best on-screen Spider-Man so far. You know, I'll get into my reasoning for that, but I just think he does such a good job at capturing what Peter Parker's supposed to be, and I love it. Now, I more positives. Ned, his friend, is fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
He's such a great, you know, he's not Harry Osborn, who's been recast twice now.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it's great that he's not Harry Osborn. He's Ned.
guy in a chair.
He's guy in a chair, dude. He was great. He was so funny. Like, you know, he was obviously put in there as comedic relief, but it wasn't forced. You know, like, he was just funny. It was great to see him on screen. You know, the rest of the cast, Guilfoyle, Martin Starr was like the
Debate team
decathlon
coach.
The kid
coach or
who
whatever.
played Flash Thompson from Grand Budapest was great.
Yeah, like he was such a
so
good
good.
bully. And that was the thing. I didn't going in. Nobody knew he was Flash Thompson. Like, he was listed under a character named like Theo or something like that on IMDb. But now
really?
now he's Flash Thompson. You know. And then that also confirms, actually, that the new Venom movie is going to be in that Andrew Garfield Spider-Man universe, or it's
Okay.
going to be Sony's own thing.
Okay.
So that sucks, you know, like, that sucks, but it's whatever. You know, other positives, there are so many positives I can talk about. I just really loved that Spider-Man is now with the Avengers, and they made Peter feel like a kid in a universe where he can do so many more things than a regular kid. It you know, obviously the huge Avengers universe is established, but this movie made Peter feel small and entrapped in Queens when he was trying to break free, and it did such a good job at doing that. I absolutely loved this film. Mike, what are your positives?
I'll actually bounce it to Ryan because
positives.
I don't want to dominate.
One of the problems with a lot of Marvel movies is that the villains often
Thank you.
have the same kind of arc,
Yes.
or they're too basic. But like, a lot of how fun they are usually outweighs that, and I always like a Marvel movie. But a lot of times I don't really sympathize with the villain or have any feeling with them, so there's less tension. And this movie does a great job making you feel for Michael Keaton's character, and it's a really good time. The villain is someone you're kind of entrenched with, and it's someone who is actually scary for a change, that feels like there's real stakes involved for Peter, especially since he has these high school problems like Dan mentioned. And so, since we've all had these basic problems like Peter's had, it adds attention and relatability to Spider-Man that a lot of times you won't get with, like, say, a Doctor Strange and just your regular basic I'm gonna destroy the world villain. Not knocking Doctor Strange.
And relatability to both of them.
Yeah,
both the villain and the hero. Yeah,
absolutely. It was great. You know, Dan gave the most long-winded explanation of that, and I couldn't agree more with his points.
Yeah,
he covered almost everything I was going to say.
But it was just so well done.
Yeah.
But I didn't even mention Michael Keaton. I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
I almost forgot about Michael Keaton.
Well, I was hoping you wouldn't bring it up because I'd be like, well, now my fucking checklist is gone.
He's such a great. He was so well done. Ryan, you can continue on him.
I'm done, Mike.
Yeah, no, I agree. The way this was so much more of a personal take that they've taken. You know, it didn't have the villain of I'm going to destroy the world and Peter has to stop him. They kept it very street level. It felt like he was just in Queens. And what Michael Keaton does too, it's not this ginormous arcing plan. Again, it's very personal. It's to help his family. It's to help his friends. It's to get back at those who don't have to suffer consequences, which is a theme that keeps coming up in these movies, and I'm glad they keep playing on it. And like Dan said, the high school drama part of it's great. The Keaton is a fantastic villain. They did with him what they did with Doc Ock, and they take a character that could have been really lame, and they give him some really cool motives, and they make their costumes fucking awesome. You know, Alfred Molina's wearing a trench coat, and he has these snake tentacle things, and then Michael Keaton's vulture suit and his helmet was super menacing, so that was all good. Like Dan said, Tom Holland. It was just I really liked how it was, you know, they're 20s, I don't know, 20-something movies in or close to it, and they're still finding new storylines to take and different approaches that don't feel super formulaic. And this was, I think, one of the best developed villains they've had. Kurt Russell was a good one. Loki's a great one. But besides that, Michael Keaton's one of the ones that stands out in my opinion. But we basically have said all the positives. It's really well done. But I'll get to the negatives. This was probably my, I would say, third favorite Spider-Man movie. That's because of how much I love the first two with Tobey Maguire. But and the reason being is because I know it's Spider-Man it's like him and his comic to have a lot of comedy and lightheartedness, but I feel like there was some repetitive comedy and it kind of got old. I would say about 90% of the comedy in this movie is very good, which again it's a very high percentage. It's a funny movie, but I feel like it at times gets over-reliant on it, especially the girl who plays MJ.
Yeah.
I mean, she was good, don't get me wrong, but every time she's on screen, joke.
She was very, she was there almost to just, put her 2 cents in.
Mm-hmm.
And she's, they set her up like she's going to be a big deal going forward in Spider-Man movies, especially with who she turned out to be. I mean,
yeah.
Her initials are MJ, though she's not Mary Jane Watson. So but she is obviously going to be a big deal going forward. But her debut in this was, obviously she's a sweet character. She kind of sees Peter as a dork, which is funny. But yeah, you're right. Every time she's on screen, she puts her 2 cents in as a joke.
Yeah, I just feel like they were somewhat over-reliant on the comedy at times, and I don't always like when Marvel does that. Sometimes I wish they would take themselves more seriously, because I think some of their big dramatic moments are sometimes outweighed by we need to have a joke here. So that was one of mine, and the only other negative I have was I thought the story was fantastic, but I thought the action was actually very average. To me, there was nothing about this movie that really popped in the action. I didn't really have any memorable sequences like the Green Goblin fighting Peter in the first one, or Doc Ock and Peter on the train in the second one of the great action sequences. There wasn't an action sequence because there's a lot of drama in this movie, and I at times felt like the story got long-winded, and usually when that happens, the action pulls it back in, and I never got a a great climactic battle at any point, in my opinion, in this movie. I thought the action was entertaining, don't get me wrong, but I thought it was definitely a story. It was definitely the story that led this movie, not the action. So that's.
And I would argue that's better. A lot of times we see in the Marvel movies, it always ends with a big battle. There's a beacon of light in the sky, and this was a little more simple than that, and it was more dynamic action.
What do you mean by dynamic? Explain that.
Well, I can't really spoil much, but like there's different set pieces involved and different places they go with the action
Right.
instead of having just random New York skyline part being like the battlefield. And it's
It was like the point of the movie was to be
was
like
different.
centralized in Queens, and
No,
to
I
for
understand
have
that.
him be like grounded, like he was supposed to be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. So it kind of turned into more of like a detective movie. Like he was being a detective while also more being in high school because, Michael Keaton wasn't in the movie as much as normal Marvel villains are. So there wasn't a lot of opportunity for action, but I thought when the action was there, I thought it was fine.
I thought until
Yeah.
the end, the action, we didn't get to see him really in action. We kind of saw him, not to get too spoilery, but somewhat making mistakes in every situation he got. And then at the end, when he shows up in a certain place and someone's weapon starts committing mayhem, that's when I was like, this is pretty cool. So I thought it was a big payoff at the end, but throughout I don't disagree. I know they were going for more of a storied approach. I just wasn't that enthralled by the action in this movie. And I would just say that is part of a superhero movie. I'm not saying I wanted mayhem, but I'm just saying that is the negative I had of it. I wasn't that entertained by when there was action.
And yeah, like we have been saying how much we like this movie, but like not every movie goes without
It's flaws.
problems or it goes without flaws. And one flaw that kept me awake last night was just like Marissa Tomei's not my girlfriend, and like I just it's really kind of sad.
No, I agree.
Thick.
I agree. She's
I just-
THICC.
She's charming, it's everything I want in a woman, and I'm just alone in bed at night, just
Ugh.
thinking about Marissa.
That can go a lot of
Not,
ways.
not
man.
like that. Dreaming about taking her out to a nice Italian restaurant and telling her how I feel,
Yeah.
That's what I'm dreaming of.
Oh,
Okay.
oh,
But is
great.
that all we have on Spider-Man: Homecoming?
I got some negatives. So, I did mention one. I'd say like, Michael Keaton almost wasn't in it enough, but I guess that was part of like the plot point was that it was more about Peter and him balancing his high school while also figuring out who's behind the plot or whatever, and that that was okay. It was a different spin on a superhero movie, which is always fresh. It's
We
nice.
might see him again.
But
too.
and yeah, I don't think Michael Keaton's done, but he definitely wasn't in this movie as much as I thought he'd be. So that I'd put as like more of a negative. Though the take on it was interesting, and then also I'd have to say since like Spider-Man is definitely belongs to Marvel Disney, and they're gonna use him more, but Sony still has the rights and everything, considering they're making the Venom
Right.
movie. I feel like there might have been some like Sony sabotage in the film.
like the PC
I
in
feel
it.
almost like I felt like Marvel and Disney wanted to go their own way with it, but some of the ties that kept the movie down were because of Sony, like still trying to own the character almost. Like I feel like some of the differences in the movie, like why it wasn't the typical Marvel, was because Sony was still involved, and some would say that's a positive. I felt like they didn't let Marvel Disney have a lot.
I'm assuming what you
complete,
get
like-
at is spoilery.
Yeah, so I feel like they didn't get complete freedom. I felt like there were still some ties to like the older Spider-Man movies, and so they still had their formula while mixing it with the Marvel Disney formula. But overall, I mean, it still worked. I love this movie, but I feel like Sony can't let Spider-Man go. And I felt like they were trying to get their 2 cents wherever they could in the movie, and at some points it was noticeable, I think. So those are my negatives, but I think we're done. Do we want to rate this sucker?
4 out of 5.
I give it a 4.4.
Ryan?
I give it a 5.
Oh,
Okay.
back-to-back 5s
I
for
liked
the Rye guy.
Yeah.
Let's average this out. Hold on. I give it a 4.4. So 4.4 plus 4 plus 5 divided by 3 is a 4.46 repeating. So we're in between a
4.5.
so we're
4.5.
we're in a
Yeah, 4.5. Let's not play with this math business.
So that's 4.5 Goldblums out of 5. That is in between Independence Day and Jurassic Park.
Jurassic
Hey,
Park.
Blockbuster.
Yeah, so go see this movie. It's great. It's nice, refreshing touch on Spider-Man. It's a good story. Great going forward with Spider-Man and the Avengers and all that jazz. So 4.5 out of 5 Goldblums for Spider-Man Homecoming. I do have to say, we
All
did
right.
talk about Independence Day. We didn't talk about how Independence Day was in between our last two shows. 4th of July.
Oh,
We didn't mention 4th of July at all. Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
4th
you
of
guys
July
have a good
was
4th?
earlier this week, and that was fun. We drank a lot of beers. I'm sure all three of us did.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Yay, America. Okay, there was our 4th of July segment. We can call that Yay, America.
yeah, to give us a Spider-Man break for a second.
To put a break in the Spider-Man, but let's go back to the Spider-Man. Okay. All right, let's go into our discussion topics for this week. We'll talk about Spider-Man, and then we can choose from this list whatever we want to do with the other one. But considering now there are enough Spider-Men to have like a team of Spider-Men, who, in your guys' opinion, is the best on-screen Spider-Man? Now, obviously the big three are Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, or Tom Holland. But if you watched a cartoon or something like that and you like a Spider-Man or whatever, then you can mention that as well. So, somebody else want to take this one to start?
Sure. Before I saw Spider-Man: Homecoming yesterday, Tobey Maguire was always my favorite. I really liked how he handled making Peter Parker like actually socially awkward. It's really funny, especially in the first one, how awkward Peter is, and you get that sense from him. You also get the sense that he's like very smart in high school, though he's incredibly old for the high school movie by the time the first one even came out, at least by today's standards. He'd always been my favorite. He was really fun. I liked how honest he felt when he was in the suit and out of the suit. And then yesterday happened, and Tom Holland was really good. Though it's not all due to him, it's due to the writing as well. But like he delivered the lines and they were fun, and he was cracking jokes, much like Spider-Man, how he does in the comics and the cartoons and things. And so to call him the best Spider-Man, I think about who's most accurate a representation, and I think Tom Holland takes the cake on this one with Tobey Maguire as a close second. Now, Andrew Garfield, I don't like those movies, the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Not a fan. I don't like him much in them, and I'm not even considering him.
In terms of, I have to go with Tom Holland as well. Just in terms of comic book accuracy and closeness to the character, being a high school kid while cracking jokes in battle, and everything like that. Like, Tom Holland captures Spider-Man. He's definitely my number one. He was great. Tobey Maguire is the second. We all grew up on Tobey Maguire. And I think a lot of problems people have with obviously two Spider-Men since Tobey Maguire is that people are so hung up on Tobey Maguire, which I get.
Two Spider, two man.
Yeah, two Spider, two man, and I think people are too hung up on Tobey Maguire, and there's an understanding there. I get it. It's like it's part of Spider-Man. He was the first like theatrical Spider-Man, and I get that. And it's not like I hate Tobey Maguire, but some people like will refuse to go see Spider-Man: Homecoming because they like still love Tobey Maguire. I feel like
Our good friend.
Yeah, because they're
Our mutual buddy.
there are people out there like that, and it that's their opinion. They're welcome to it, but like you know, I feel like people are still way too hung up on Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, and they gotta learn to let go a little bit. But I mean, he was great. But yeah, you know, it was just like an old thing, and just in terms of comic book accuracy and stuff like that, that does factor into my judgment here. And you know, hey, Tom Holland's the best. Now, Andrew Garfield, I do consider Andrew Garfield, Ryan. I'm not going to leave him out of the discussion. Um, he I didn't hate his Spider-Man. I didn't like his movies. I think he just kind of fell victim to bad directing, bad writing. And that sucks because Mark Webb directed those, and his last name is literally Webb. How do you fuck up a Spider-Man movie if your last name is Webb? But, you know, I think that was just an unfortunate circumstance for Andrew Garfield because I thought he brought, you know, some good life to the character, and he honestly was the bridge between, you know, he was the bridge between.
Honestly, out of the three, he might be the best actor.
Yeah, and like you know, he was the bridge in between Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland, and before Tom Holland was even like a thought as Spider-Man and being introduced to the Avengers universe, Andrew Garfield was more talkative and more joking than Tobey Maguire was as Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. You know, I thought he brought life to the character that Tobey didn't, but overall Tobey was still a better Spider-Man, you know. But I don't hate Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. It's just, you know, out of the three, he's definitely third. But I think, you know, if he was in better movies, then there'd be better consideration. But then also, if he was in better movies, Tom Holland wouldn't have been Spider-Man, I don't think.
True.
So,
Mike, what do you think?
So, Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man. But this is on the we're going off Spider-Man, not movies, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Just character, you know.
Like I said earlier, I like Maguire's movies so far more. Arguably, Civil War is better than the first two Spider-Men, but he's not the star in it. But I am going to go with Holland. He exudes everything Spider-Man is. He fits the age. He's got the charisma. He can do the badass too. Because the problem with Tobey Maguire is whenever he gets mad, he looks like a fucking bitch. and I love his movies, but he's like
one of the most famous gifs of all time, and it was used a lot this weekend for reactions to Spider-Man: Homecoming, was him crying when Uncle Ben got shot in the 2002 Spider-Man.
He's an ugly crier.
That's one of the funniest faces I've ever seen.
Yeah, sad. Like they handled it well in the movie, but and I'm glad that they like didn't have that in.
Spider-Man was introduced in Civil War.
Anyway,
so,
yeah, I'm gonna go with Holland for all the reasons everyone said. I love. Wow, Ryan, that's a big mole. On our Google Doc, Ryan was talking about Tom Holland's mole, and now I put up a picture of a random mole. Wow,
that's from Austin
Powers.
Powers.
A big mole. But I like Tobey's movies more so far, but that can easily change. But yeah, like Tom Holland's utterly fantastic as Spider-Man. I'm really glad Garfield's not doing it anymore. One, because that universe they were setting up wasn't good, but two, he's probably wouldn't have been able to do things like Silence and Hacksaw Ridge and some other things. So yeah, I think it works out for everyone, honestly.
Things have settled. I haven't seen Tobey Maguire in anything in a while. Is he still doing okay?
I don't know? He was in Great Gatsby. He was good as Nick.
Yeah,
besides that, I haven't seen him anything.
He played Connect 4 on Jimmy Kimmel like earlier this year or last year. So I was just like, Tobey Maguire, he hasn't been in anything for a while. But the thing is like, you look at Tobey Maguire, he's always going to be Spider-Man.
Watch the video on YouTube I watched it once, I can't remember, but it's like why Hollywood won't hire. Do you know how they do those?
Yeah.
They have a Tobey Maguire one. I recommend you guys watch it because it's kind of interesting and it kind of makes sense.
There's one of those on Brendan Fraser.
Yeah. And Brendan Fraser's was a string of bombs at the box office.
Yeah.
That's the simple one. But yeah. So I think it's a consensus that right now it's hard to see Holland as not. And I think that's a lot of credit to just how Marvel makes their films.
Yeah.
You know?
Brendan Fraser was in Looney Tunes Back in Action.
Was it good?
I forgot about that.
It was a good movie. Steve Martin was the villain in it.
I'll tell you what. I forgot to give the shout out. How about Favreau coming back as Happy Hogan?
Yeah, he
that was awesome.
Yeah, he was great.
He's so good.
Tony,
Yeah.
he was the assigned babysitter by.
He was
Tony
like
Stark.
he was like his angry uncle.
Yeah,
it was
so
hilarious.
funny. And just from the first 4 minutes of the movie was like, oh, is this a spoiler? No, it was released on
No.
PlayStation like last week, so no, it's not. Like the first 4 minutes of the movie is like this little vlog by Peter Parker, and that was just a great way to start off the movie. It was really awesome. So
Yeah, before we ended, I had to give Favreau a shout out because I love that guy.
yeah,
He's awesome.
Yeah.
you know, he was in an episode of Friends I was watching the other day. It's he's an ultimate fighter, and he's dating Monica, and apparently Monica's a distraction for him in the ring, but it's also because he's just a terrible.
Was he in shape back then?
Yeah,
He had like a six pack.
Yeah.
He used to be a boxer, I believe. Yeah.
Oh shit.
yeah. So he played an ultimate fighter in
Yeah.
this episode of Friends, and Bruce Buffer was also in it, and he announced the match. But yeah, Friends.
Because he
Friends
actually
is a
lost
ritual.
weight for this new Spider-Man too. Like
Yeah,
he
he
got,
did.
he got really fat
When he did
for a
Chef,
bit there.
yeah.
Yeah, when he did Chef, that was like the peak of it. Because he's probably cooking a lot, and yeah, no, he looks good.
Oh, and another Iron Man character. It was good to see them again, but that is a spoiler, so I'm not going to say that. But
No, she's in the credits. But yeah, leave it out. Leave
Yeah.
it. Anyway, it was a Spider-Man centered episode, and
Yeah.
the consensus is we like the new Spider-Man. We love Tom Holland. And Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man movies are pretty good, except for the third one.
yeah.
And
But it's a damn shame because it's like the third one is the taste that was left in our mouths though to end off
That's
Sam
true.
Raimi's
Yeah, that's
thing,
true.
and it's like, you know, like the Spider-Man 2 is for a long time was considered just the best superhero movie ever.
Mhm.
You know, until like The Dark Knight
Until,
came out.
that or Iron Man.
Yeah, so like that was just kind of what a summer of 2008 though. Iron Man and The Dark Knight.
It's nuts.
Yeah. All right, so now we're going to end the podcast talking about the year 2008 and why it's such a great year. No, we're not going to do
All right.
that at all. I think
And
we're
that-
done here.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is this week's podcast. Remember that each and every Monday morning we're uploading to YouTube, SoundCloud, and iTunes, and we're going to have links to those on our Facebook and Twitter page, which will be in the description. You guys have any final thoughts?
Apes on horses next week.
Yes. And Game of Thrones
And
next
Game
week
of
as
Thrones.
well. But,
Do we want to do like a
boy.
recap episode? That'd be kind of hung.
so
maybe.
like, record Sunday night next week?
No. Like if we wanted to do like a midweek, like I don't know. We'll talk about
figure it out.
We'll have our normal episode,
Yeah.
obviously. But
Yeah. All right.
anyway,
Other than that.
Yeah.
All right. Love you, listeners. Keep listening.
And as always, thank you for listening.
What if God was one of us? Just a slob like one of us.